North Korea's leader has become visibly emotional as he called upon women to have more babies. Kim Jong-un was seen wiping away tears with a handkerchief as he addressed the National Mothers' Meeting in Pyongyang.
Behind the scenes of North Korea's unsettling secrecy and seemingly composed administration, the country has a problem. The issue North Korea has is so bad that its tough dictator of a president, Kim Jong-un, suddenly broke into tears on national television. What is this serious problem, and what else is different in North Korea? Join us as we reveal the changes happening in North Korea that you're not being told. The rare display of emotion. Kim Jong-un, known for being a strict administrator, showed a softer side in 2023 when he burst into tears in front of thousands of North Korean mothers. He was begging them to have more babies to stop the decline in the country's birth rate. During his speech at the National Mothers' Meeting in Pyongyang, he addressed the audience as "Dear Mothers," and told them that preventing a decline in birth rates and good child care are their shared responsibilities. Kim Jong-un's emotional display was quite unusual, given his reputation as a strict leader. He even used a handkerchief to dry his eyes during the speech. North Korea's fertility rate has been declining in recent decades, and the United Nations Population Fund projects that the fertility rate will be 1.8 in 2023. This is higher than some of its neighboring countries, like South Korea, which has a fertility rate of 0.78.
Well, North Korea is also grappling with serious low birth rate issues. In response, families with multiple children are receiving priority access to new homes in Pyongyang, alongside additional benefits like hospital services.
No one knows whether Kim Jong-un's tears were genuine or just a publicity stunt to gain sympathy. What do you think? North Korea's fertility rate isn't the only thing Kim Jong-un has clearly tried to change. Wait until you hear the stark difference between his regime and those of past North Korean presidents. Music. The music industry in North Korea really changed over the years with the shifts in the country's politics. During Kim Il-sung's rule, the state sought to control music, condemning genres like jazz as filthy and degenerate. Because of these restrictions, artists had to compose music and then add lyrics that aligned with the state's ideology. For example, the song "For Us to Live as in Those Days" has lyrics and a video that perfectly match state ideology, but the music itself is calm and beautiful. This approach allowed artists to create music that was acceptable to the state while still expressing themselves. During Kim Jong-un's era, the music scene in North Korea underwent a huge transformation. Previously forbidden genres, including jazz, were not only permitted, but also welcomed. North Korea even saw the emergence of its own jazz bands, which was unthinkable during Kim Il-sung's rule. This shift marked a departure from the rigid ideological constraints imposed on music during Kim Il-sung's reign. The liberalization of musical expression under Kim Jong-un fostered an environment where diverse genres could flourish, and artists were no longer constrained by the need for strict ideological alignment in their work. Art. In North Korea, the concept of art took on a unique meaning under Kim Il-sung's regime. The only recognized style of art was socialist realism, which meant that paintings were essentially propaganda. These paintings depicted the leader as a powerful figure, soldiers ready to fight, and workers fulfilling the party's goals. But when Kim Jong-il took power, he made changes in the artistic space. He relaxed restrictions on artistic expression, allowing North Korean artists to explore different genres that were previously unimaginable. As a result of Kim Jong-un's leadership, North Korea witnessed the emergence of its own version of Impressionism. Painters began depicting scenes beyond political propaganda, such as villages, city streets, and ordinary people. Even in ideological paintings, there was a sense of innovation in form. The legacy of poster art persisted, but North Korean paintings now held promise in the global art market. Defected North Korean painters found opportunities in the South, and the transformation in North Korea's art scene under Kim Jong-un's leadership was very obvious. Artists found newfound freedom to explore diverse themes and styles, and North Korean paintings now have the potential to captivate audiences worldwide. Apart from art and music, something else has changed in North Korea. Education. Education in North Korea is free and mandatory for all students until they complete secondary school. Before starting primary school, children attend 1 year of preschool, followed by 4 years of primary education. The educational curriculum in North Korea includes a mix of academic and political subjects. Core subjects like Korean language, physical education, mathematics, and arts are taught, along with a significant portion of instruction dedicated to teachings about the great Kim Il-sung and communist morality. North Korea claims to have a 100% literacy rate among individuals aged 15 and above, although the accuracy of these figures may be questionable. From a young age, children in North Korea are taught to idolize the ruling Kim family, with kindergarten students dedicating 2 hours weekly to learning about their leaders. The education system in North Korea serves as a platform for propaganda, indoctrinating citizens to idolize the Kim family and promoting distorted versions of history to legitimize the regime's authority. University admissions are highly selective, with only students recommended by their instructors eligible to pursue higher education. Foreign language education begins in secondary school, with English and Russian being the most common languages taught. While the quality of education is compromised by errors and ideological biases, education extends beyond childhood in North Korea, with adults in rural areas organized into educational teams and office and factory workers mandated to attend post-work study sessions. Skilled hackers. North Korea has been conducting many successful cyber attacks in recent years. These attacks have been getting worse and more complicated, proving how serious North Korea is about its cyber program. One notable attack happened in 2009 when North Korean hackers targeted US and South Korean government websites. Although the damage was mostly symbolic, it was a wake-up call for US officials to strengthen their defenses against state-sponsored cyber threats. North Korea's cyber attacks have mainly targeted South Korea, causing real problems for the country's economy. For example, in 2011, North Korean hackers attacked South Korean banks, disrupting their systems and affecting the economy. In 2014, North Korea even created a mobile game that became popular in South Korea, but it contained hidden malware that allowed North Korean hackers to access thousands of South Korean cell phones. These incidents show how North Korea's cyber warfare tactics are evolving and posing significant challenges to cybersecurity and international relations. Rare mineral resources. North Korea has a lot of valuable minerals, including coal, iron, gold, and rare earth minerals. These rare earth minerals are very important for making high-tech products like smartphones, computers, and solar panels. They are also used in defense technologies like missiles and lasers. North Korea's rare earth minerals are worth a lot, with South Korea estimating their value at over $6 trillion. This has led to increased interest in working together to explore and extract these minerals. The rare earth minerals in North Korea could be a big opportunity for the country to boost its economy. China, which is the main supplier of rare earth minerals, has limited its production and exports, causing prices to rise. This means North Korea could capitalize on the rising demand and prices. With the help of other countries, North Korea could develop its mineral resources, bring in more money, and improve living standards for its citizens. This could also lead to more cooperation with neighboring countries like South Korea, China, and Japan, which could help to create more stability in the region. Do you think North Korea will really be open to this cooperation, seeing as the country loves its secrecy and independence? Mass games. North Korea's mass games are large annual shows that combine art, dance, and performance. These events are not just about sports, but rather a way to showcase the country's unity and achievements. Around 100,000 people participate in the performances, which are meant to demonstrate everyone working together. The shows have changed over time, focusing on different aspects of North Korea's history, economy, politics, and culture, but some experts argue that these games hide the fact that North Korea doesn't treat its people fairly. Reports from people who left North Korea reveal that kids had to train hard for months before these events, and some parents didn't like how their kids were treated. The mass games usually take place in the huge the 1st of May Stadium in Pyongyang, which is supposed to be one of the biggest stadiums in the world. During the performances, people do gymnastics and dance on the field, while thousands of kids in the stands hold up colored books to make big pictures and words. The shows are meant to remind everyone about North Korea's history and show off how skilled and organized North Koreans are. This year's mass games might be more high-tech, with rumors about lasers and computer graphics. Experts think that the shows won't be as much about the military this time, but rather about Kim Jong-un's plans for the economy and making friends with other countries. Abandoned boats. Every year, many abandoned boats from North Korea wash up on the shores of Japan, often with the remains of their crew on board. These boats are often called ghost ships. They are thought to occur when North Korean fishermen are forced to go farther out to sea to catch fish, because Chinese boats have overfished in North Korean waters. As a result, the North Korean fishermen can become lost at sea and die from exposure or starvation. Fishing is a very dangerous job, and many fishermen around the world die while working. In the winter, North Korean fishing boats go out to catch king crab, squid, and sandfish, which are then exported to China. The ghost ships that are found without any living crew members are usually old and lack modern engines and GPS technology. There is often not enough food on board, which increases the risks of exposure and starvation. Many experts believe that the main reason for these ghost ships is the illegal fishing activities of Chinese vessels in North Korean waters. These vessels have depleted the squid stocks by 70%, forcing North Korean fishermen to take greater risks to catch fish. When the abandoned boats and bodies are found, they are treated with respect. The bodies are cremated, and their ashes are kept in a Buddhist compound. The boats are eventually dismantled, destroyed, and incinerated. The appearance of North Korean ghost ships on Japanese shores is a complicated issue that reflects the human dimension of this ongoing maritime phenomenon. The Pyongyang Metro. The Pyongyang Metro is a surprising feature of North Korea's capital city. Unlike the common perception of the country, the metro system is a blend of functionality and aesthetics, reflecting the regime's priorities and aspirations. The metro operates as more than just a means of transportation. What truly makes the Pyongyang Metro stand out is its unique design and operational efficiency. Spanning two lines, the Choloma Line and the Hyok-sin Line, the Pyongyang Metro connects key areas of the capital, facilitating the movement of hundreds of thousands of commuters daily. The Pyongyang Metro operates with a very impressive precision, with trains running at intervals as short as 2 minutes during peak hours. Equipped with audio systems that can play music and announcements, the metro ensures a comfortable and efficient commuting experience for its passengers. Its affordability, with tickets priced at a mere 5 North Korean won, also makes it accessible to all segments of society, reflecting the regime's emphasis on social equality. In recent years, the metro has embraced technological advancements, transitioning from traditional paper tickets to modern contactless cards for fare payment. This transition not only streamlines the ticketing process, but also enhances security and efficiency within the system.
Saudi Arabia has a strong religious history, especially among Muslims. Thinking of Saudi Arabia takes your mind to Mecca and Medina, the holy cities of Islam, and you would rarely associate it with Christianity. Well, that is until recently. Some suggest that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia, stating biblical references and giving reasons for their claims. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, this mountain holds great significance. It is considered a sacred site and attracts visitors from around the world who seek a spiritual connection or wish to retrace the steps of Moses. According to biblical accounts, the mountain is believed to be where Moses and the Israelites received the 10 Commandments from God, which became the core of the moral and religious teachings of Judaism and Christianity. As written in the book of Exodus, God instructed Moses to come to the top of the mountain and gave him the 10 Commandments, which he put down on a stone tablet. This made the mountain called Jebel Musa, Arabic for the Mountain of Moses. Christians view Mount Sinai as a foreshadowing of the heavenly Mount Zion, where God dwells with his people in glory. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount corroborates his teaching to his followers, Christians, to live according to the spirit of the law and not just the letter, as though they have touched divinity and God lives among them. Bible accounts also associate Mount Sinai with the transfiguration of Jesus, where he transformed in the presence of Moses and Elijah. Jews consider the Mount the most sacred place on earth, where they uniquely encountered God and where humanity interacted with God, representing a spiritual and physical connection which agrees with the very core of Judaism, that the religion connects the divine with earthly existence, making the teachings received at Mount Sinai directly relevant to the everyday lives of Jews. According to Jewish tradition, it is also a place where Abraham went to sacrifice his son, Isaac. The Jews are believed to be God's people, and this is one of their proofs, as they believe that God chose them as His special people and gave them the Torah as a gift and responsibility, solidifying their role as God's chosen people. They also believe that the encounter was God's covenant with them and emphasized their responsibility to uphold the commandments given to them. It is evident in the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses reminded the Israelites of the covenant of God and urged them to obey His commandments. Jews view Mount Sinai as a symbol of their identity and destiny as God's people. Also, in the Quran, God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai and gave him the tablets of the Torah, which make up the holy scriptures of Islam. These rules and commandments serve as a code of conduct and reflect God's will for His people. Also, the mountain represents an encounter between humanity and divinity, showing the connection between God and His people and highlighting the theme of obedience and the importance of living according to His commands. In Islamic stories, God praised Moses for his patience and obedience and instructed him to deliver his message to the Pharaoh and his people. It also represents God's grace and mercy in that after Moses returned from speaking with God, the Israelites had turned to sin. Yet God showed mercy and called Moses back to give him another set of laws. Furthermore, Mount Sinai is often used in Christian teachings to represent the journey of faith, the pursuit of holiness, and the desire to draw closer to God. In each of the three religions, we can see the mountain holds great significance. Unfortunately, the exact location is still shrouded in mystery and has never been established. It has been said to be in Egypt, but recently, researchers claim to have found evidence that Mount Sinai is really in Saudi Arabia. Now that we see the significance of the mount to all three Abrahamic faiths, let's get down to settling its location. For a long time, Mount Sinai has been believed to be in Egypt, in the country's southwestern corner, near the border of Israel and the Sinai Peninsula. The mountain, considered the holiest site in Judaism, stands approximately 2,285 meters, 7,497 feet above sea level, and is home to many important religious sites, including the famous St. Catherine's Monastery and the Church of the Transfiguration. St. Catherine's Monastery is a Greek Orthodox monastery on the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. It is one of the oldest monasteries in the world, having been built in 527 AD by Emperor Justinian I after he got robbery complaints from the hermit monks who frequented the place and had eventually settled there. Not only is the monastery famous for its age and long-standing history, but it is quite popular because it was home to the world's oldest continuously operating library, housing ancient manuscripts and books dating back to the 4th century. Its stunning Byzantine architecture and its breathtaking collection of icons add to its beauty, making it even more popular among pilgrims. The monastery also encloses the Chapel of the Burning Bush, which is said to be the site of the burning bush from which God spoke to Moses. St. Catherine's Monastery is an iconic and essential place of pilgrimage for Christians around the world. During the era of the Fatimid Caliphate, an existing chapel was converted into a mosque used by the Muslims regularly until the era of the Mamluk Sultanate in the 13th century, but is only in use now on special occasions. During the Sultan-led reign of the Ottoman Empire, the mosque was left in desolate condition until its restoration in the early 20th century. As stated earlier, the mountain's location is still under deliberation, and no one knows the exact place. Due to this, Over time, numerous places in the Middle East region have been continuously proposed by scholars as the original site of Mount Sinai as they study the possible locations in the Bible and other historical books. Of all the proposed locations, one has stood out, generating a lot of controversy, and it all began when Charles T. Baker, a British traveler, explorer, and Bible scholar, proposed the idea in 1873. He proposed that Mount Sinai was a volcano and published a pamphlet titled Mount Sinai, a Volcano. In his short book, he argued that the Bible described the mountain as exuding smoke and fire despite the lack of ash. He also guessed the mountain would be along the route Moses took on his return to Egypt from Midian in northwest Arabia. Consequently, he set his sights on the mountains at the head of the Gulf of Aqaba, particularly Jabal an-Nur, or the Mountain of Light. When Baker finally visited his predicted location of Mount Sinai, he discovered it was not volcanic and was humble enough to withdraw his volcanic theory. However, he still stood by his assessment of the location, only accepting his wrong in claiming the mountain was a volcano, and instead stating that the biblical references might have been referring to the area during a storm. Although many other scholars disagree with Charles Baker, as they interpreted the Bible more metaphorically or symbolically, others chose to walk in the way of his claims. Other scholars have made their claims about the location of the mountain in places like Egypt, Jordan, or Israel. Unfortunately, Charles Baker died soon after visiting Jabal an-Nur, before he could explore the region more and possibly prove his theory. Alois Musil and H. Philby were two influential scholars who accepted the proposition of Charles Baker and agreed that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia. Musil was an Austrian-Czech scholar who trained extensively throughout the region in the late 19th and 20th centuries. Philby was a British intelligence officer who worked extensively in the Middle East and North Africa during the 1920s and 1930s. He was actively involved in the creation of the Arab Legion and was a key figure in Britain's relationship with Saudi Arabia, documenting his journey and writing several books on his journeys and observations, including The Heart of Arabia and Arabian Highland. In their studies, they both indicated Jebel al-Manifa near Wadi al-Rab as the location of Mount Sinai. In his book Arabian Highland, Philby describes his visit to Jabal an-Nur in 1952 and confirmed the location as Mount Sinai, while noting that the mountain had a much revered mosque on its summit. In the book, he continued that in comparison to all of the proposed locations in Egypt and Jordan, Jabal al-Manfiya fit the location the most. In 1971, a French scholar, Jean Koenig, proposed the volcanic peak of Halal Bedr as the likely location of Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia. He even published an article titled Sinaitic Itineraries in Arabian, and he detailed his arguments about the accuracy of his interpretation of the description of the mountain's location. Although Jean Koenig built his work based on the progress his predecessors, Charles Baker, Alois Musil, and H. Philby have made in identifying with Saudi Arabia as the location of the mount, he was the first to provide as much proof, pieces of evidence, and detailed arguments. As much as his argument might seem convincing, the most controversial one is yet to come. If Jean Koenig, with all his pieces of evidence, isn't the most controversial, then which is? The most controversial and popular of all, the proposed hypothesis came from an American researcher, Ron Wyatt. The researcher also believed that the mountain was in Saudi Arabia. Still, he believed it was at a different location. Jabal al-Laz, the Mountain of Almonds, northwest of Saudi Arabia, near the Jordanian border, above the Gulf of Aqaba. After claiming to have discovered the locations of other historical sites like Noah's Ark, Sodom and Gomorrah, the Red Sea crossing, the Ark of the Covenant, and other biblical archaeological treasures, he also used some to support his claim on the mountain's location. Wyatt's whole assumption is based on his understanding of the text of Exodus 3:1. He assumed that because Moses kept Jethro's flocks and Jethro was a priest of Midian, that meant that the mountain of God that Moses came upon must also be in the land of Midian. After claiming in 1978 to have discovered the Red Sea crossing at Nuwaba in the Gulf of Aqaba, Wyatt concluded that the real Mount Sinai must be located east of the path of the miraculous Red Sea crossing, in a territory of western modern-day Saudi Arabia. The best possibility, Wyatt thought, was Jebel Olaz, because it represented the highest peak in the entire western Saudi Arabian mountain range. He also claimed that he had found archaeological evidence of a large encampment near the mountain, which he believed to be the Israelites' encampment before their exodus. During his research, he also uncovered a large pile of granite rocks about a quarter of a mile from the mountain's base, with drawings of bulls, cows, and oxen. From it, Wyatt deduced that this place was the Great Altar of Israel at the foot of Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, and possibly the one mentioned in the Golden Calf story. He then went further, using his discovery of the Red Sea to point out what he believed were remnants of the Pharaoh's chariots found at the bottom of the Red Sea, facing Jebel Olaz, a blackened mountaintop supposedly indicating the fire of God, a massive split rock with the appearance of a powerful water flow, 12 stone pillars located below the mountain, and other findings, all of which he believed were related to either the Israelites' time of living at the feet of the mount or their exit. However, many scholars have continued to argue against Wyatt's theory, stating various reasons for the controversy over his work regarding his methods and evidence. Firstly, Ron Wyatt was only an amateur archaeologist, had no formal archaeology training, and his methods were crude and unsystematic. He did not publish any peer-reviewed reports or papers on his findings. He only spread the word about them based solely on his opinions. Secondly, because of his unusual methods, secular and religious authorities have had problems with him. He has even been arrested and jailed by the Saudi Arabian government, tagging him as an Israeli spy for trespassing and smuggling artifacts. Additionally, some biblical scholars suggest that while Apostle Paul was teaching the Galatian Christians about God's covenants, as indicated in Galatians chapter 4 verse 25, he might have said that Mount Sinai was in Saudi Arabia, in Midian, which seems to support Wyatt's claims. This seems to be a misrepresentation, because in the actual text, Paul only says that Mount Sinai is in Arabia, not Saudi Arabia. Scholars have taken up the argument that the Galatians reference could be used to support the notion that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia only if Apostle Paul was looking at a modern political map, which could not have been possible. So if he was looking at a 1st century Roman map, the landmass of Arabia in Paul's time included the Arabian Peninsula, the Sinai Peninsula, and northern Egypt. The Arabian Peninsula, made up of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UAE, among other Asian countries, is a vast desert landmass. Still, you would be shocked to know that the desert we see now in Saudi Arabia was once covered with lush vegetation, and there is both scientific and historical evidence to back up the claim. In the Quran, the holy book of Islam revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century CE, many verses describe the natural phenomena and the wonders of Allah's creation, such as the sun, moon, stars, mountains, seas, plants, animals, and humans. The Quran contains some of the historical events and places related to Arabia, and some of the oldest written sources that mention the geography and climate of Arabia. Ancient researchers, travelers, and geographers, such as Herodotus, Josephus, Eusebius, and others, also write about the vegetation and characteristics of Saudi Arabia. They describe the land as a land of mountains, valleys, rivers, forests, and spices. The land was so green and produced so much that they had plenty to export and established trade routes that connected the land to other regions. That is to speak of historical writings and facts. Scientifically, there are fossil records of the preserved remains or impressions of organisms, plants, and animals that once lived there. The fossils document the evolution and diversity of life on Earth and the environmental changes that occurred over time. The fossils found further support the claims of the large and diverse ecosystem. They are from elephants, hippos, and crocodiles. We can agree that these animals would not exist in a small ecosystem because they need abundant food and water. The fossils also indicate the existence of rivers and lakes that support diverse aquatic fauna and flora. Fossils dating back to 350,000 years ago or earlier across the Arabian Peninsula that were mapped using satellite imagery suggest that Saudi Arabia had a wetter and greener climate. Scientists have also found fossils of seahorses in the area. They were small fish that live in shallow coastal waters and feed on crustaceans and plankton. All of this history is to show us that Saudi Arabia had different types and phases of vegetation and animals in its history. Also present are the fossils of humans, the preserved bones or artifacts of humans and their ancestors that lived in the past, indicating the interaction and adaptations of humans with their environment. This is why the Green Saudi Arabia theory came into play. The initiative was launched by Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to improve the country's environmental performance, and since the geological record showed evidence that proves the presence of water bodies and landforms that require a wetter climate, the theory focuses on reducing the country's emissions, increasing renewable energy use, and developing a circular economy. Some of these records are portrayed in ancient river channels and lake basins. These are the traces of former watercourses and water bodies that carved and filled the land surface. They indicate the existence of rainfall that supported a hydrological cycle and a freshwater ecosystem. Scientists have also referenced the chemical composition and isotopic ratios of rocks and sediment. These are the characteristics of the minerals and elements that make up the solid materials of the Earth. They indicate the temperature, pressure, humidity, and salinity conditions that influence their formation and alteration, suggesting that Saudi Arabia had different types and phases of climate in its history. Scientists have also discovered coral reefs and seagrass beds in Saudi Arabia. These structures depend on sunlight, indicating the presence of clear and warm seawater that provides nutrients for habitat for many marine organisms. Since many discoveries are dated back millions of years, you shouldn't be shocked to know that it applies to this too. Another shocking discovery in Saudi Arabia is the stone structures dubbed gates by archaeologists. These gates are rectangular platforms enclosed by low walls and connected by long walls that form a courtyard. They are found in the volcanic fields north of Medina and other parts of Saudi Arabia. The gates were first observed in person by a group of amateur archaeologists led by Dr. Abdullah Al-Said in 2004, before they revisited the area using Google Earth in 2008 and was stunned by the extent and variety of the structures. They sent their photos and coordinates to professional archaeologists such as Dr. David Kennedy, an archaeologist at the University of Western Australia, who studied the stone structures of Arabia for decades using aerial and satellite imagery and published his findings in the Journal of Arabian Archaeology and Epigraphy. He also identified other types of stone structures that date back to different periods and serve different purposes. Dr. Kennedy suggests that they may have been built by nomadic tribes who moved across the landscape following the availability of water and pasture. He also suggests they may date back to at least 2,000 years ago and maybe as far back as 9,000 years ago, making them older than Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. The discovery of the gates is significant because it reveals a new aspect of the ancient history and culture of Saudi Arabia and its people, and also challenges the perception of Saudi Arabia as a desert devoid of human impact.
Which of these did you find the most interesting? And did Kim Jong-un's tears shock you? We would love to know in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next updates. Also, click the next video on your screen to enjoy more exciting content.